university is really about the network, what you get out of it, rather than the content from classes. How I think about life, and this is inspired by Elon Musk, is to reason from first principle thinking, which means that rather than thinking from analogy, meaning what everyone has always been doing, we think about fundamentally what cannot be disputed and what must be true. And when I think about what can university provide you, of course it's the network, it's also the resources. And many people forget that. I know I have a friend who's doing a social media startup, and a big part of starting his company is that he already has a lot of clients on campus. And I think that played a big part of why he has become so successful today.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Z-Link. Today we have Luke here, who is currently a student in the London School of Economics. So Luke, why don't you just do a brief introduction of yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Bosco, for inviting me to your podcast. So I was born and raised in Hong Kong, and during my time in Hong Kong, I studied at a local school for 8 years in DBS, and after that, I switched to the school that you're in right now, Canadian International School in Hong Kong. During my time in Hong Kong, I've also had the privilege to have spent a good amount of time in the States and Canada. So I'm very lucky to have built a great community there. So right now I'm living in the UK. As you said, I'm studying at the London School of Economics. Outside of university, I've been spending a lot of time advising and guiding ambitious high school students to be selected into their dream school through my university consulting business, which we've had a lot of success in this university cycle for class of 2024. And I know we'll continue to have incredible acceptances again for 2025 group. And yeah, outside of work, I like playing classical music. I enjoy photography. I also love learning about social issues from people who share different perspectives, and American politics too.
Nice, Luke. So you've been back from London to Hong Kong for a couple of months now, and
2 weeks.
So how? 2 weeks. So how has the life at London been compared to Hong Kong? And I'm pretty sure it's probably much colder. So what was actually your expectations and your first impressions of London when you went there?
My first impression was that London is a lot bigger. I'm very lucky to have been to London a few times before I moved there. But London is very nice. There's always a lot to do, actually. The museums, most of them are free, so we make use of that a lot. In the winter, it's quite tough. As you said, it's very cold. Sun rises at like 8, 9, and then it sets at like 3, 4. So that it can be quite tough in those few months for a lot of people. Yeah, incredible people, incredibly diverse, and yeah, I enjoy that a lot.
Nice. Actually, one of the things I heard in London is that many people ride their bikes to school. So do you live in LSE, or do you live next door?
I live near LSE, so yeah, you're right. A lot of people ride their bikes in London. I do too sometimes, because if I walk there, then it's like 30 minutes, and if I bike there, it's like 5, 6 minutes. So it does save a lot of time, and it's very convenient too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess it's pretty good cardio also in the morning. So it's a
Absolutely.
win-win there. So yeah, let's just get straight into your overall background and some questions that I have regarding your basically regarding your primary school, and talking about DP program as well. So I guess before we get into all of the study tips, which I think many people have been thinking about really deeply, what subjects did you actually take for the DP program?
I took standard level. I did Chinese, B, math, AA, and ESS, and then for HL I did English, language and literature, global politics, and economics.
Nice. So I guess overall, with this entire DP program, obviously, I guess that has been in the back of your mind or probably, archived or trashed away ever since you went to LSE. So was there any particular tips or subjects which were most memorable and you would like to share with the audience here?
Tips. First thing I would say is to be direct and concise in our communication. And that is orally and, of course, in written too. And that's so important because firstly, academically, we have to write concisely and directly, or else the examiner, they won't understand what we're saying or what we're trying to argue really easily. And that's a big part of IB, which is that the examiner has to be they don't have to put in a lot of effort to find your points. So your structure is really important when you're writing. So that is really important. And professionally, this helps us professionally too, because in the world of business, time is money, and it's also a form of respect. We're respecting others' time, and we have to be efficient. So it definitely helped me a lot to be direct and concise in communication, both academically and professionally. Second thing, which maybe not necessarily so academically, is to recognize that we have very limited time with our friends. And that is what a lot of people, I think, neglect and don't think about a lot, because say right now your law school, you're in grade 10 and you have around 2 years left in high school, and then people will be scattered around the city, the world, and you'll not be able to see a lot of people again. So I made an effort to really spend more time with my friends despite our busy schedule. And the third thing is reflection. Reflection is so important because that's how we improve and grow. If we improve 1% every day, and it adds up and it compounds, we improve 37 times in a year. So to really reflect on how we can improve, whether it's our life, our writing, IB, academically, relationships, that's so important. And in terms of academics, as you just said, when teachers know that you're constantly trying to improve and reflect from their feedback, then they will want to help you. They will want to, whether that's giving you a better grade if you're just a little bit off, makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like the points that you bring out there. And yeah, especially with the one about improvements, like, if you're a teacher, then you're for sure 100% going to want to see the student being eager to improve no matter where they're starting out in the beginning of the DP program. It really matters, at the end of grade 11 or at the end of grade 12 where you are rather than the beginning. So in terms of friendships, and you mentioned how many people, if you guys are listening from the DP program, you're probably going to understand that it's a pretty busy schedule. I interviewed a couple of guys previously on the pod, which you can for sure check out later, and they have mentioned how they have to spend a lot of time each week studying for the 6 subjects, especially in the beginning of the DP program, especially when the transition from MYP to DP. So for you personally, Luke, how did your overall timetable look like, just roughly, if you still remember?
To me, every day was quite different because of course there's school, and then I was doing stuff outside of school. I was doing a lot of photo shoots at the time, and then maybe sometimes after school, back to back, I would have a few shoots or trying to have meetings and stuff. So it's quite different every day. But the thing I try to do is to structure my day really well, and to make sure that I work smart and not necessarily hard. Of course, you have to work hard too, but a big part of it is working smart, and there's a distinct difference. Working smart, to me, it means 2 things. The first thing will be that there's a lot of time that are quote unquote wasted that we don't realize. So for example, when we're, taking the subway or in a car or something, a lot of times people are just scrolling through their phone, looking outside, wandering, whatever, daydreaming, listening to music. But what I try to do a lot throughout my DP is to make use of those time, because I recognize that those times, those maybe 30 minutes, hour transportation time, they add up a lot. For example, if back and forth to school every day, it would take 1 hour, 1.5 hour, you can times it by 5 or 6, 7 for 1 week, and then look at it in a year. How much time did you spend basically doing nothing? So I tried to make use of that a lot. Sometimes during lunchtime, I would be like, okay, this week I'll spend 2 days with friends, or 1 day with friends, 2 days in meetings, and then 2 days working by myself. So I have a good balance between spending the limited time with friends, but also getting my stuff together, getting work done, so I can work on the stuff that I can actually excel in high school, and also do the things I love at the same time. The second thing will be to recognize that there's marginal diminishing returns. What that means here is that, say, you work, so there's a test coming up, and you can study for 20 hours for that test, and you get 85%, which is not bad. But if you put in, say, 10 more hours, so that's 30 hours, then you do 90%. So we need to ask ourselves, is that 10 hours extra worth it for that 5%? And sometimes it may be worth it, and sometimes it may not be worth it. And we need to think about that. What's the opportunity cost there? What could I have done in those 10 hours? Maybe in those 10 hours, I could have either spend time with friends or do something even more productive that's gonna generate more results in my life or in other areas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with what you said, like, especially with the part about the diminishing returns. Like, it's really about, the end goal of what you really want to achieve. And I think it's pretty different for everyone. So in terms of the overall, IB program, what do you think was something that you were most frustrated about?
What was I most frustrated about? I would say one thing is that we don't have time. It's very limited time, and we feel very overwhelmed at times. So sometimes I would have like so many deadlines tomorrow, and then I'm here sitting in front of my desk here at 9 p.m. I'm like, there's no way I can finish this. And the only way I could do this is to really stay up all night. So that was a big part that me and a lot of my friends struggled with, which is we feel quite overwhelmed at times, especially during the times where we were applying for universities. So I applied to a lot of universities, and that took up a lot of time. I'm balancing that with what I do outside of school and everything else. It's quite hard at times.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a pretty common theme amongst, many DP students as well. So, I mean, in terms of when you look back at it, do you think there were some ways or some, potential strategies that you would have or could have used to kind of decrease this overall feeling of overwhelmness? Or do you think it's something mandatory that basically all IB students have to personally face, which is this time issue?
I think inevitably everyone goes through this. But there are ways that helped me a lot. And the first thing is to break it down. For example, there's there's something called the extended essay, which is a 4,000 word thesis that you write according to the subject that you choose. And I mean, 4,000 words, even for a uni student, there's no way you can finish it in 1 day or 2-3 days. And a big part of how I approach this is to really break it down. Because, I would be like, oh no, there's like 4,000 words, how am I supposed, like, where do I even start? So breaking it down by smaller pieces really help a lot, because it makes it easier to start. Because the problem with procrastination, like, what does procrastination mean? Procrastination is just the fear of doing something. People are afraid to start. We are all afraid to start. It's like, how do I even start writing 4,000 words? That's due soon. So to break it down into, you're writing an introduction, and then maybe in this introduction you have like this point and that point, and then you really structure it really well and have a timeline on what you do. So this is what I do in university too. We have really long essays to write, and by really having a really clear outline, it helps a lot. And I know some of my friends, they struggle even with like really simple things, like I'm just in bed and I even struggle to get out of my bed to shower. And that's procrastination too. And how do we break this down even more? The first thing is just to put down your phone. Turn power off your phone. It's just one click. And that's a lot easier for people who struggle to like even leave the room and go to shower. I mean, step by step, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I guess this whole problem of having distractions is a pretty big problem and pretty common, and especially with, the access of technology. Like right now, I could be distracted by some kind of notification that pops up on my phone, or, something comes up on my computer. So, just being in this flow state, I think, is a really important key for everyone. And just getting started with something for 5 minutes, as pushing yourself to be there, it will automatically build up, and you'll find yourself, going through and going so deep into the subject or the thing that you're doing that you won't realize how much time has passed through. So just getting started, I think, is one of the biggest key points. So I guess let's talk a bit about your like university application. So how was like your personal statement?
How was my personal statement?
Yeah, and like what was your I would say like the biggest tip that you have there?
Well, I wrote a lot of personal statements, and because I applied to a lot of universities, and my biggest tip would be, again, it's communication is everything. There's 3 things that I would say that I tell my students a lot. The first thing, again, is to be direct and concise. Don't use a lot of passive tense. Use active tense. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Actually, that's my second point. To use active tense only. Be clearer and highlight the subject who is doing the action, who is you. You're doing this. You did this. You did that. Rather than, I was given blah blah blah, or my boss told me to do that. And the third thing is to never say that, I'm passionate, I'm fascinated by it. That's a lot of that's a big part of why people get rejected from universities in North America and the UK. They say that, I'm passionate by, I'm fascinated, I'm motivated by. We need to demonstrate that. Like, by merely saying that, that's not convincing enough. We need to persuade examiner that we are actually doing what we're doing. rather than saying, oh, I'm interested in this. No one would be convinced by that.
Yeah, I like your point. Like, so basically having like a show not tell mindset, right? Like if, like for example, if you're really into business, like there's no point of saying I really like doing business, right? And then if you don't have any examples, then like how can you justify this point? Like how can you justify that you're truly interested in this thing? It's pretty.
And the thing is,
big.
people will be able to tell that you're passionate about something. If you're working on 3 things that are consistent to a theme, if there's a theme from the 3 things that you're working on, they will be able to tell automatically. And that's a lot more convincing than you telling them, oh, I'm passionate about business.
100%. So I guess with, the overall university application, like how many universities did you apply to? And how was like your overall decision making in selecting LSE compared to other universities?
I applied to a lot. Like, I would say like 28.
28.
That's not like a normal number of universities that people apply to. So at the time, I was very pessimistic. I was like, oh, I'm literally going to community college. But in reality, I was doing fine. I worked hard, worked smart. And in terms of choosing universities, I was debating between the offer I got from LSE and the offer I got from NYU. And I'm someone who's been exposed to New York a lot. I spent a lot of time in New York, especially in the past few years. So I really wanted to challenge myself and to learn more about European culture and to expose myself to those people on how they work, how they communicate with each other, how they interact with each other, and to understand how they think. That's a big part of why I chose to pursue LSE.
So 28 universities. So that's like 28 different personal statements, basically. All right.
Well, some universities, they don't require personal statements. Some you need like multiple. Like I think UBC was like 6 or something, and then there's like interviews and all that. So that was a lot of time.
No,
But in hindsight, I don't regret it at all. I never thought about applying to the UK, and in fact, I only thought about applying like 2 months to the UK 2 months before the deadline. I was like, oh, where should I apply to? How should I approach my personal statement? And I'm glad I did, because if I weren't pessimistic or realistic, I wouldn't have been where I am right now.
So I guess like if you don't mind sharing, like, a bit more specifically, like, I guess there will be some people who are watching this and they're probably hoping to get into LSE, to do some kind of bachelor's or something. Was there any specific tips or, strategies that you used that you think actually, helped you get into LSE with your application?
For the UK, a big part of it. So there's 3 main parts. The first is grades. Grades is so important. If you don't meet their minimum requirement, they won't even look at your personal statement. So that's the first bar. Grades, really important. Same as the US. The US grades is also extremely important. And of course, personal statement. So the second one is personal statement. Personal statement has to be stellar. It has to be incredible. Every single word, every single vocabulary you choose, how you structure each sentence, has to be meticulously thought out. Like UK statement, it's impossible to do it in 1 day or maybe even a week. Really to edit many times. Sometimes I'm on the bus and it would be like, I will look through it again and maybe I'll change 1 word. And I'm like, oh, this word I could use this vocabulary better. And then maybe, oh, if someone wanted to see my personal statement, And then we were reading it together. I'm like, okay, maybe this sentence I can put it first, and then that sentence I'll put after. So really thinking about how we position our personal statement, as in like the words, the sentences, and all that. Again, communication is a big part. And then what else? Just think about, look at the course description. That's a big part. So for all the UK schools, if you look into their website, and for that major or course specifically, they have a really clear course description in their page. And if you use the content there, and link it to your experience, then they would be like, oh wow, you're literally a perfect fit to our course. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, so doing adequate research and basically caring about these small little vocabulary details. So with, I guess, your whole application, did you, like, in any point, like, did you do like any, like, I guess, like, outside, those like different businesses that helps you like look at the personal statement or like sharpen it? Like, was there any of that, or like was it just solely written by like yourself? And do you think that's helpful also?
I actually know a few people who used those consulting services, and some of them has had great results, some of them haven't. So it really depends on who you find. So I didn't use any because I did a lot of research. I did a lot of research for at least 2 years. And I was really lucky because I had friends who were studying in different universities too when I was applying for universities. So I asked them for a lot of advice. They helped me look through my personal statement, and that helped a lot. But a big part of it is really the research that I did myself, and talking to people was a really big part of it. So I actually visited a lot of campuses in the US, and talking to students there, talking to admissions officers there was a big part. And by doing that, I've been able to combine all the knowledge that I have across different university systems. So that helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so getting to know, more network and getting to know alumni is, pretty key for the university.
The big part of it at the end of the day is to really put in the work. Getting into universities is really not about relationships, unless you're donating $5 million to Harvard or something. But it's a lot about putting in the work yourself and really understanding the system. Like, there's a lot, like, when I was applying to universities, like, I was like, oh, I wish there was someone that I could ask all the time. It's like, oh, should I use this word or that word, or should I give this detail to, like, this is a big part of US applications. Like, should I put this detail in, is like, or that detail in there, or should I include this in my activities section, or how should I like order them? Like, these are the small things that I know a lot of students thought about a lot when applying to universities.
Got you. So it's about these small decisions again, and also like a whole lot of research. So I guess like accumulation. So you should probably like start early and start looking at different universities, and I guess selecting the right university is also it's definitely going to be key. And I guess it takes time as well to see, because there's just so many different university options. And yeah, I guess like also networking is pretty important. So let's talk about, your life at LSE. So, I also did some research, and as many of you guys probably know, it's ranked top 10 for, many different subjects, including, economics, philosophy, psychology, just to name a few. So how does, your average day in a university look like?
Well, honestly, it's quite different every day. So
And you're gonna say that. Mhm.
uh, yeah, the good thing about university is that you get a lot more control over your time compared to high school. So in high school, you kind of have to spend 8 to 3 or 9 to 4 or something like that. You're you're there at school the whole day, and then after that, you're gonna have to do work, and then you sleep. But then in universities, you can skip class, skip lectures, and really deciding on what's important to you. So day in a life, maybe I'll wake up, I'll maybe read, I'll take a shower, get some work done. If I choose to go to uni at university, if I choose to go on campus, then I'll go to campus. Maybe I have class, I have meetings. Maybe I get lunch at school or sometimes at home. And then maybe more classes, more meetings, more work. Sometimes I maybe get coffee with friends just to have a chat with them, catch up with them for dinner, for coffee, for lunch. And then, yeah, maybe sometimes if I had time, I would play my Xbox. I literally bought the steering wheel in the UK, so I have a lot of I have a lot of fun playing that. I don't have a lot of time for that, but whenever I do, it's a really good time to get my mind off of all the stress, all the work and everything.
Hey guys, just a quick second before we get back into the pod. If you guys didn't know, there is a Valley Doc link in the description, which is prepared by myself and the guest, which will contain all of the resources and tips mentioned in the podcast. It's 100% free. We have spent hours on this, so we would appreciate if you could just check it out. All right, guys, back to the pod.
Yeah, I guess like a heavy topic that many people like talk about on the internet and everything is that the value of going to university is network rather than the program itself, because the program itself you can find it somewhere else on the internet or anything. So as a first year student in LSE, could you briefly describe what type of people you kind of like this general overview in LSE? Like, are there a lot of entrepreneurs, or are there a lot of like X type of people?
Yeah, I agree with you actually. I'm also a strong believer like you, and I know a lot of people would disagree with me, that university is really about the network, what you get out of it, rather than the content from classes. How I think about life, and this is inspired by Elon Musk, is to reason from first principle thinking, which means that rather than thinking from analogy, meaning what everyone has always been doing, we think about fundamentally what cannot be disputed and what must be true. And when I think about what can university provide you, of course it's the network, but it's also the resources. And many people forget that. And many people think about, it's the classes, it's the professors. And yes, that's a big part of it, but it's also the resources, the environment plays a big part of university. And to your question about entrepreneurship, there are some entrepreneurs in LSE, and we have a club for that. It's called LSE Gen or LSE Generate. And entrepreneurs go there, gather and meet with like-minded people. And I think that's a big part of university. I know I have a friend who's doing a social media startup, and a big part of starting his company is that he already have a lot of clients on campus. His target audience can be university students, and he had some of his friends or to share on how they can be ambassadors for his startup and all that. And I think that played a big part of why he has become so successful today. Like, if we think about how Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook, his first clients and his first target audience were his peers around him. And I don't think, and it would be hard for some people who drop out of high school or are not or did not pursue university to have that base, because university gives you an identity. You're a student, and it gives you kind of a few years time to figure out what you want to do, rather than being forced to start something or be in the workplace already.
So it comes down to basically how you basically use your 4 years or your 3 years at the university, I guess, at the end of the day. And I really like, your angle on having your peers as, your first clients, as literally you're going to the same university every single day. You're seeing them every single day. So you understand their pain points and you understand, what they like and what they don't. So that's a pretty good opportunity for sure. With, I guess I just also want to ask, I guess many people think that LSE is a, heavy work institution, especially with many UK universities. So how's the overall workload for you for, coursework?
For every for every major, for every course is different, but generally it's quite a lot of work compared to other UK universities, and I would say it is heavy academically based, but it also provides you the time to work on other things that you're passionate about. So yeah.
I guess also another thing is, in terms of the interns, I guess many people on the internet are talking about how specific universities, they will have company reps come to the university and promote their company. To a certain extent, for some students it could be harmful because there's just too many, the companies are forcing them to join the company even though they don't really enjoy. So how's your overall thinking and perspective with that, especially when you probably worked in a couple of interns already? How's your future approach on this?
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from in terms of a lot of companies choose to go to the universities that they're targeting. And I'm very lucky to have LSE to have a lot of that. And at the same time, I don't feel any sort of companies forcing anyone to go, because the job market is so bad right now. And even when times are good, it's not pushy at all. And a lot of the times you're almost never forced to go. It's more of you want to go, then you will have to take time out of your day, out of your week to go meet them. And I know a lot of people will know job market right now is so tough. Economy around the world is so bad, maybe other than the US, but even in the US, job market is quite tough because COVID, they hired a lot of people. Yeah, interns is really a numbers game. People literally apply to 200 jobs, and it's quite hard to fathom the work that we have to put in just to get maybe a few interviews.
So in terms of the companies that you did intern in, as I've seen your LinkedIn profile. You worked in I think many different I guess financial institutions. What would you say was one of the most memorable piece of experience, or just in general, how did it feel for you, especially going into such big companies?
Well, I didn't work in really big companies, and especially as a high school student, it's quite tough, and it's quite frankly impossible to get into big companies because they only hire university students. But in terms of memorable, I wouldn't say there's one particularly, but what I got out of it is because I was lucky enough to intern in different countries. So I was in Hong Kong, New York, and Shanghai, and it's for me to really understand how and instead of experience how people work and communicate with each other. And that's a big thing. If you want to go into selling, I mean, the world of marketing, the world of communication, like you, Bosco, that's a big part. Is really to empathize with people and understand, think from other people's, think about where they come from, their culture, what they're used to, and things like that. And for example, one example would be, maybe this is not necessarily in the workplace all the time, but gift giving is a big one. For example, in Asian cultures, if you receive a gift, you can't like automatically be like, oh, thank you, let me look at it. Like the norm is kind of like, oh, like, oh, no, this is too much. No, me.
Mhm.
And then after like 10 minutes, you'll be like, okay, if you insisted, thank you. And then you would put it on the side rather than opening it. And in Western cultures, if you be like, okay, no need, that would be rude and disrespectful, because it's like, oh, I selected this gift for you and you don't want that. Like, it's like, you need to be, okay, oh, thank you, I'm so, oh, I love this. So that's a big part. So that's one example. The second example would be in Asia, in Asian workplace, or even Asian in general, it's a lot about face, right? Not only do you have to like let them save face, it's just so important about face. And whereas in the US, it's more direct. You tell them how you feel about something, how you feel about this deal. Whereas in China, for example, it's hard to know what they think about. For example, you present this project, you present this deal to the prospect, and then at the end of the call, you don't even know what they think about it, unfortunately. And that's a big part of understanding different cultures.
So as you've mentioned, the different company culture, I think that's a pretty important experience as well. So if we transition to, more of the topic of entrepreneurship as a whole, and as we've discussed previously before in the call, you did start your own startup, Aperture Portraits, which you started back in grade 9, which was actually pretty insane because if you're a normal teenager, you probably wouldn't start your own startup when you're grade 8 or grade 9 at such a young age, right? So could you, let us know, like, what was the overall motive, or what was the overall goal of starting this in the beginning?
So actually, I will start a little bit before that, around grade 8, when I was in DBS. I wanted my own camera, and because I didn't have my own camera, and I wanted one, so I started to resell secondhand stuff, like secondhand camera and stuff like that, with the little amount of money I had. Maybe I saved up $2,000-3,000 Hong Kong, and that was not enough to buy the one that I wanted to buy, which was like around 10,000, I think. And that was a lot of money for me at the time, being a grade 8, grade 9 student. So I started reselling secondhand stuff, and so I did that for around a year, and I quite enjoyed it, actually. But over time, I wanted to do more sort of project-based stuff, and also meet new people from different backgrounds. So that's when I started to do photo shoots for people, and I started shooting for free. And then over time, started charging, and then charged more. So
So like back then, were you like thinking of scaling this entire startup, or maybe like having this as one of your income sources for the long term, or was it just something for like a side hobby to explore photography?
it was more, I would say it's more of a hobby or like a side thing, because over time it's quite hard. I mean, it's definitely possible, but it's not what I want to scale a lot. because I mean, at the end of the day, it's my hobby. And what I realized is if you turn a hobby into business, you lose that hobby. So it's I over time, like right now, I only take referrals and mostly referrals and existing clients, and I don't reach out to new prospects anymore. So I'm only taking clients and deals that I want to take right now because I'm very fortunate to be able to do so and shoot what I'm most interested in. Like I've done like what I love the most is I love doing weddings, I love doing parties, and sometimes corporate events. And what I don't like is sometimes portraits and things like that. I love being. I want to be part of like people's journey. Like sometimes they have like birthday parties, and then I meet their friends, and then and then in their friends say event or party, I start to meet like a whole community, like their whole community, and it's almost like I'm a part of them now. So I love it.
Yeah. So in terms of like the entire business, or should I say like side hobby, do you currently like have like a team, or do you work solo?
Mostly solo, and sometimes I have people coming to help me, but I operate it myself.
Nice. So if someone was watching and they were like a grade 9 or grade 8 or grade 10 student who wants to start like a business, what would you say is your biggest takeaway or your biggest advice from Aperture Portraits?
To just do it. I mean, there's nothing to lose, honestly. When you're grade 9, grade 10, it may seem like you have a lot of work to do, but in reality, if you ask any DP students or university students, the thing is like grade 9, grade 10, the workload is nothing, honestly. So, and also the grades in grade 9 especially, it's not that significant, and it won't affect your university prospects as much. So it's really the time to pursue entrepreneurship if that's something that you're interested in.
I guess that's something that I might have slightly personally regretted for not starting a bit earlier, because I started my journey about 1 year ago, and that was, I guess, like the end. But if I maybe take that time more seriously beforehand, we might have gone somewhere further. So I also heard that you're obviously doing consulting, right, and helping ambitious students to be selected into competitive universities in the US, UK, or Canada. So could you also like briefly describe what's going on there, and do you plan to do this for a long-term period?
So you're right. After I finished high school, I was like, I really want people who are students who are younger than me, who are also as ambitious, to get the sense of reward, the joy that I was able to have from all my hard work and all the sacrifices I made to get into my dream universities. So when I was applying to universities, as I mentioned earlier, I was struggling a lot with like these little details. Like I did a lot of research, and those are the things that everyone can find online if you dig deep enough. If you put like 100 hours, there's no way you will end up knowing nothing about university applications and how to position yourself better. But the thing that I struggle with is like, okay, there's like these details and a ton of small decisions that I had to make, small or big decisions that I had to make, that I had people to go to, but then I couldn't like bother them every day. So I wanted to be that person for many ambitious students. I'm there for my students every day, every second I'm awake. You can call me unless I'm dead. You can always call me, and I'm always there to look at your stuff, to provide advice, and really help you from the start to to finish. So right now, even though it's May, and I mean it's June, all my students already had all their offers, but I'm still helping them on those little stuff, housing, everything, and scholarships. So I want to be there for ambitious students, so I can provide advice for them from the start to finish and achieve the incredible results that I was lucky enough to be able to have.
And all this was done, voluntarily, or is this like an overall business, or do you have like a specific, package?
Right. So it's a lump sum package. So which includes everything from the start to finish, and it depends on what country that you want to apply to and want help on. So it's either US, US, which includes Canada, or you can do UK, which includes Hong Kong too. So or both. And some people want me to help with them with both, and if they invest in that lump sum, then I can help them with everything on uni apps.
Nice. Sounds pretty inspiring. Maybe I'll actually probably think of something similar in the future, but doing something, I guess, business related. And I guess one of the best leverage that everyone can take is overcoming a certain problem and then teaching it back to people who are behind you in your path, right? And
the big thing, yeah, you're right. And the big thing that I see a lot of other consulting businesses out there, because I did look into them, is that everything is commercialized for them, and they can't be there for you all the time. Whereas I really want results. I'm really there to provide results for my students. And I literally just got through this like 1-2 years ago. So I completely understand, and I feel the pressure, and I understand what students at that stage are going through. So I relate to them, I feel them, I understand them.
100%. That's a really important point with any business. You have to actually do it, right, rather than just say that you are an expert in that field if you haven't gone through all the hard stuff that's going. Pretty sure this is going to be a really good funnel, for the business, especially when anyone who's interested, feel free to reach out to Luke. And I guess like overall, do you have like a certain client cap that you have in mind right now? So if, let's just say, for example, this podcast blows up, gets millions of views, and like, will you be expanding the team, or do you just want to? Is there like a qualification process, or any thoughts on that yet?
Yeah. So in terms of qualifications, you need to be ambitious, and I only want to help people who are dedicated to their work. I don't want to like chase you on your stuff every single day. I can if I can, but I'm also very busy. And yeah, there is a cap. I only want to help several students on their uni applications, because of course I want to dedicate all my resources to them rather than doing it merely for money. And yeah.
Yeah, nice. I guess it's the personalization, and I guess rather than taking all like as much quantity, it's better to scale in quality and really work with the students that are truly ambitious. So do you plan on having some kind of some kind of process for it? Like, do they have to take a test, or are there certain criteria that you're looking for on their like LinkedIn or app or like resume?
Yeah, so we'll have a chat with I'll have a chat with the students. Some of the families want to involve too, so I'll talk to their parents. We'll have a call, or we'll meet in person if we're in the same city, and I want them to think about whether I'm a good fit for them and whether they're a good fit for what I'm best at too. So we'll really understand each other, what value I can provide, and what they think is best for their student.
I really like how you like also take the parent approach, right? Because like parent knows the child, I guess, a lot more. So rather than having like strictly just implementing some different things that you personally have, I guess like found really successful, it might not perfectly fit for the student, as every student is pretty much different. Transitioning away from the entrepreneurship and financial world and DP world, I also saw that you participate in multiple services right now, and also in the past, right? And of course, the reason I probably know you is because we were in UNICEF together, right? I remember we did like some kind of projects together. That's how I first met you. And we also see that you're an English teacher for Tutors for Ukraine in the past and Inquisitive Minds Hong Kong. So my question is, was there some sort of like motivation, or did you have like some kind of deeper connection with like children when you were young? Because like I guess like the common theme that we could see with UNICEF and Tutor for Ukraine is, I guess, like helping students. So was there like a specific motivation or story behind that?
I'm a big believer that how you grew up lays the foundation for your future. Having been so privileged to have grown up having tremendous resources and support, I wanted to just do whatever I can do so underserved children and kids in my community can also receive the support that they deserve. And the second thing will be that a lot of my older friends helped me a lot, and they supported me a lot along the way. And I want to provide that for kids who are younger than me too. So whether I can do this voluntarily or not, I want to help people so that they can, again, receive the support they need. And for the university stuff, I mean, it's quite impossible for me to commit to this voluntarily because I have very limited time. But for people who are underserved in my community, I'm more than happy to help them as much as I can.
I really like your point there about the growth, because literally like students right now, they will be the future leaders of our next generation, and it's really truly about what you have absorbed in your childhood, which would build this characteristic of a leader, or this characteristic of a person who actually change the world in the future. So I guess we've talked about so many different topics here. What would you say is your one biggest advice that you have for people who are listening till this point?
The biggest thing I've learned in the past few years is really to listen to other people. And I think that has helped me tremendously, whether that's my relationship with my friends, meeting new people in events, professionally, academically. That has helped me a lot. Really to listen and let them talk as much as possible. The thing is, people like talking about themselves, and we all inherently have ego, and we like to be proud of our work. And especially in these 2 years, I've really made an effort to look at people around me and be like, okay, I really respect you, because whether you share the same background or perspective with me with me or not, I would try to talk to you, to understand you, and by listening to you. And I come to realize from a young age that I enjoy surrounding myself with people from all walks of life, because I love learning about their perspective and experiences. And again, I'm very lucky to have spent a lot of time in the US and Canada too. And I think that played a big part of who I am right now. I love culture. I love how different people interact with each other. So yeah, even for friends who are much younger than me, like you, Bosco, I've learned a lot from them and you, and of course, vice versa. And this is so important because by listening to them, not only will they teach you knowledge that you don't already know, but you will also be able to start seeing the world in ways that you didn't previously see. I mean, they have skills that you don't have that you can develop. So one example would be I was in Toronto last year and this year, and I met this incredible friend who runs a big restaurant, and they have restaurants around North America, and I had no knowledge about this industry, and by really listening to him and his experience, I mean, not only do I learn more about Canadian culture, American culture, I now know a little bit more about what it takes to run a restaurant. I mean, when we eat in restaurants, we never think about, they have to buy more expensive plates, because if you wash them 3 times a day for a year or two, then it starts to wear off. So you need to buy a more expensive plate. Then maybe if you're able to achieve economies of scale, then you can save a lot of costs. So that's one example of me really listening to them and try to be curious and inquisitive, even if people don't share the same perspectives and backgrounds and cultures from you.
Yeah, I personally learned a lot from you as well, and this is one of the main reasons I guess I personally started with the podcast, is to kind of allow people to see different perspectives, not only with IB tips and stuff, right, but also share their own story and really let other people spark some ideas in their mind. And I guess just being able to open up to yourself, to talking to other people, it will eventually opportunities and ideas will come to your mind, because you talk to so many different people with so many different backgrounds. And yeah, I think it's the beauty of humans, is that we have the ability to actually connect with one another and create amazing things, unlike some other animal species. Yeah, so before we end with this podcast, I'm just really curious, but what are 3 titles or 3 books that you'll recommend people to read?
The first one is a very cliche old one, and that is what is that title again? How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Dale Carnegie. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, even though that book is really old, I think it's from 1938, it's still very applicable to this day. So that's a big one. The second one would be Atomic Habits. I'm sure a lot of people heard of that. Atomic Habits is a big one. I love that. I read this when I was in grade 12. It was a really easy read, quite short. It's called Power to Change Lives. It's by my mom's friend, actually. And what it talks about is how she moved from very humble background in Hong Kong to America. And when she moved to America, she had nothing. And she talks about how he overcomes everything from having, basically no money, quite difficult living conditions. I think studied in community college or something. And then in the end, uh, getting into her dream school, UCLA, and trying to get the money to pay for college. And right now she's a really successful real estate. She has a really successful real estate company based in California or San Jose or something. And it was so incredibly inspiring. And what I got out of this is not only how the American dream is possible if you work hard, if you're resilient, and if you put in the work. And what I love about this a lot is she has this after every chapter she has like this advice kind of column, and it's quite practical too. So not only do you learn about her journey all the way from Hong Kong moving to America with nothing to pursue the American dream, you also get a lot of life advice from the book. So I think it's very inspiring.
Wait, it's Power to Change Lives by Helen Chong.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. For sure, put that in my reading list.
Especially it's quite an easy read, honestly. I gone through it really quickly. I just read it like in school between classes, before classes. And it's good.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for sharing those 3 books. So yeah, I really appreciate you hopping on to the podcast, Luke. I'm really looking forward to see great things happen in the future with you. Like I think it's gonna be in a very exciting period, especially AI and tech. And I still personally believe that as long as we are able to do something that we enjoy, then we'll succeed no matter what happens at the end, no matter how long it takes. Hope you guys watching if you guys are still watching, hope you guys enjoyed the podcast with Luke. I'll put Luke's contact in description if you're interested in the consulting and just in general if you want to just chat with him about LSE or just whatever interesting in the podcast. So yeah.
Feel free to reach out to me about anything. Happy to help.
100%, man. Great guy. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in, I guess, the next podcast. Peace out.